Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to be with you this evening, and I'm delighted with the initiative that has been taken. My own job as diversity spokesman, as well as being Shadow Attorney General, makes me very much aware as I go around the country and I visit mosques particularly, that there has been over recent weeks a climate of real anxiety in the Muslim communities of this country, a sense of where do we belong, and a feeling that people, and sometimes authority, seems to be hostile to them. That's something which fills me with both pain and regret. I'm an old-fashioned conservative. If there was one thing I was brought up with by my parents, it was the keenest sense that the country I live in which I'm a citizen, although it may not be perfect, did have some pretty important values. And the values of freedom and tolerance were both underpinning of our national life. I consider them to be absolutely essential to the future of my children and my grandchildren, quite apart from the way I want to live in this country for the future. The trouble we face is that when governments, and indeed individuals, are confronted with things which may make them fearful, it becomes all too easy to slip into authoritarian responses which are uniquely destructive of the social fabric. I really never thought that I would see a day when a government would suggest that 90-day pre-charge detention should be introduced without being able to provide a single shred of evidence to justify it in objective terms. I was pained to see that ID cards are being introduced when the justification for them in practical terms appears to be slender and the obvious downsides on the civil liberties front are so obvious. I worry very much about attempts to fetter freedom of speech, which was why I was so pleased that we were able to build a coalition over incitement to religious hatred. Not because I don't perfectly and painfully aware that some people seek to stir up hatred against others, but we should make absolutely clear that the criminal law must not be infringed, but we should also be very careful about fettering freedom of expression in an attempt to try to regulate how communities operate. These are going to be really important issues, I think, over the next 2-3 decades, for all I know. Our country is going through a period of great change. Change is often difficult. Doubtless, multiculturalism is often difficult. But if we're going to get through that process safely and well and build a bright future for people of all religious and racial backgrounds in this country, then we have to have a sense of proportion, and we have to look pretty squarely at the values that have brought us here. The truth is that our forebears in Britain have often had to face these choices before. This isn't year zero. These problems have happened previously. And we precisely have got to a situation where tolerance and freedom have been able to flourish because people, when confronted by difficult issues, have been prepared to make choices which were often probably quite difficult for them in terms of tolerating others with whom they disagreed. It's the absolute underpinning of our society. And all I want to say to you tonight is that my party and I personally remain fundamentally committed to this, however much there may be superficial attractions in appearing to take strong lines. The strongest line we can take is about protecting freedom, and I'm committed to doing that. And if we unite behind that, even when we may have other political differences, we will find that the political process becomes easier, we will find that understanding grows, whereas if we move in the opposite direction, our lives collectively will become much harder and greatly impoverished. We have something that we can build together and build on, and we should always keep that in mind. Thank you very much.